Happy time zone, friends, and welcome to Story Hour. I am your host, Valerie Valdes. My co-host Daniel Marcus started Story Hour to help people stay connected by telling each other stories around this virtual campfire. Laura Blackwell also hosts and is here to help you get settled and to hand out marshmallows. Welcome back to those returning and welcome to those joining us for the first time. As always, we have two writers reading for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Jennifer Hudak and Gwendolyn Kiste. If you are fortunate enough to help others during this time, please consider a donation to tonight's featured nonprofits, Willow Domestic Violence Center, the National Aviary, and World Central Kitchen. Jennifer Hudak is reading for the Willow Domestic Violence Center. Willow Domestic Violence Center's mission is to prevent domestic violence and ensure every survivor has access to the services and supports needed along the journey to a safe and empowered life. It provides a full spectrum of essential services, including emergency shelter, 24/7 crisis and support hotline, counseling, and safety planning. Its vision is a community free from domestic violence where healthy relationships thrive. You can learn more at willowcenterny.org. Gwendolyn Kiste is reading for the National Aviary. The National Aviary works to inspire respect for nature through an appreciation of birds. With regular hours and special classes and events, the National Aviary offers opportunities to learn about and sometimes meet eagles, condors, penguins, rainbow lorikeets, toucans, and other fascinating animals in their habitats. You can learn more at aviary.org. World Central Kitchen is first to the front lines, providing meals in response to humanitarian, climate, and community crises. WCK has served more than 60 million fresh meals to people impacted by natural disasters and other crises around the world. WCK's resilience programs strengthen food and nutrition security by training chefs and school cooks, advancing clean cooking practices, and awarding grants to farms, fisheries, and small food businesses, while also providing educational and networking opportunities. Learn more at wck.org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. It can be nice for our readers to see you. Chime in on the text chat if you like. If you are joining us on Facebook, thank you, but please understand that we may not see your messages right away. And without further ado, our first reader tonight is Jennifer Hudak. Jennifer Hudak is a speculative fiction writer fueled mostly by tea. Her work has appeared on both the Locus magazine and the SFWA recommended reading lists, and has been twice nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Originally from Boston, she now lives with her family in upstate New York, where she teaches yoga, knits pocket-sized animals, and misses the ocean. You can find her online on her website, jenniferhudakWrites.com, or on Twitter at writerunyoga. And now I will mute myself and we will listen to this awesome story. Thank you for joining us, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun, so exciting. I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to be reading two kind of shorter stories tonight. And there's a little bit of a theme. There's kind of, they're both about mothers and daughters and aging. So a little theme. The first one came out in Apparition Lit in January of 2021. It's called With the Nectar Comes the Sting. And it's alternating between two different voices, two different POVs, which hopefully will be clear through my reading. Okay. With the nectar comes the sting. I wasn't always like this. Prickly, pained, borders unfixed and shifting, amorphous. Women start out so simple. We start out such sweet things, plump and rosy, smelling like vanilla straight out of the shower. We beckon with our bright colors and our heady perfume. Crowds gather, and we can't shake them. It's fun until it's a nuisance, and it's a nuisance until it's scary. Eyes everywhere, a swarm of eyes, barbed gazes. Later, when our skin slackens and loses its apple flush, when our hair sighs and releases its pigment, Eyes slide past us on the street. Not yet old enough to pity, no longer young enough to desire. We have to shout to be noticed, but we seldom do. I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to tell you. I have to assume you've done your homework. There's a whole mythology that's built up in the 25 years since my mother became hive mind. As for my experience, well, it's hazy. I was only 12 at the time. Mostly what I have are flashes. The feeling of a cool hand against my feverish forehead, the brush of lips against my bruised arm, her shirt wet with my tears as I buried myself in her chest. When you're 12, your mom exists only when you need her to. Otherwise, she fades into the background. It's painful to remember because now, of course, there's no getting near her. I was in my room reading with my headphones on when she got stung. To be fair, she dealt with the sting quietly and on her own, swallowing her pain the way she always had. It wasn't until I came out of my room, probably wondering where dinner was, that I saw her on the couch with her leg propped up, swollen like a sausage, shiny and red. She didn't make a big deal about it, and neither did I. The swarm didn't start arriving until later that night, and until then, other than the sting, it was pretty much a normal day. She probably got up to fix us some sandwiches. I probably let her. That first sting hurt, the way a child's pinching fingers can hurt, the way an old photo can hurt. The venom spread thick as honey, and the pain swelled and deepened. My skin, red and hot, broadcast its anger, something I had never been able to do. Sometimes pain turns you into something you aren't. Sometimes it just brings to the surface everything you've been hiding. Bees are fascinating creatures. Did you know that honeybees have barbed stingers? The barbs ensure that the stinger stays lodged in your skin so that as much venom as possible will course through your body. It also means that when the bee pulls away, the stinger wrenches from her small, plump abdomen, the stinger, and part of the bee's insides as well. Think about that for a moment. The bee literally pulls herself to pieces in order to sting you. She stings you anyway. The superhero stuff didn't start right away. People think it did, like she just woke up one morning and decided to become hive mind. Like most changes, this one happened gradually. At first, there was just a single bee bumping up against the living room window while my mom sat with her leg elevated, then a few more, crawling up and down the outside of the screen door. We didn't think anything of it other than there must be a hive nearby. Mom told me that bees send out a signal when they feel threatened. It calls the rest of the hive. The one that stung her must have done that before she died. I imagine the bees, hundreds of them, a hiveful, a legion, tasting distress in the air. I imagine them pausing in their work, backing their pollen-dusted bodies out of deep flowers and looking skyward, where the dying bee's panic broadcast its signal against the underside of the clouds. By the time Dad got home, several dozen bees blanketed the screen. Mom reacted badly when my dad suggested spraying. She was already changing, although none of us realized it. The bees found their way inside, a few at a time, crawling underneath Mom's blouse or buzzing through her hair. It wasn't as hard as you'd think for her to hide them in the beginning. It had been a while since any of us had really looked at her closely, even my dad, even me. When we finally started paying attention, it was too late. She wasn't Mom anymore. She was a swarm. Regrets are pointless. The past is an ancient, crumbling tapestry that will fall to pieces if you try to pluck out its threads and stitch them anew. Better simply to remain in the present. This flower, already brown on the edges of its petals, offering up its nectar. I am not now what I once was. None of us are. Still, if I had one wish, it would be to hold my daughter. All parents must eventually let their children take flight, but my daughter had to trust her wings earlier than I might have wanted. She was so young, her skin so tender and raw, no exoskeleton to protect her from thorns, from fingers and teeth. If I could have, I'd had used my arms as a shield. I'd have been her soft place to land, but I was no longer soft. Don't ask me if I would surrender the hive if it meant having my family back. In my darkest, honey-filled chambers, I don't know if I would. There was a man, that's what I can tell you. I don't know what he looked like. I wasn't paying attention. At 12, I was already used to guys telling me to smile, commenting on my clothes or my hair or my preteen body. But this one didn't stop. He started following me, peeling away from his pack of friends and trotting behind me as I walked home. I must have felt threatened. I must have sent out a signal. It happened so quickly. One moment I felt his breath on the back of my neck, reeking of anger and power and entitlement. And the next he was on the ground, punctured, poisoned, powerless. The swarm enveloped him, swallowed him in its barbed mouth. I won't lie, it was terrifying. This was my mother. She'd always been my comfort, my safety, my home. Now she was violent, unrelenting, dangerous. From the buzzing, humming center of the hive came my mom's voice, "Go, run home." And I did, of course I did. That's when she became hive mind. That's when she got a taste for justice. Justice or vengeance. Maybe they're the same thing. I was stung too, a couple of times. That's why Dad finally left and took me with him. But he wasn't there. He didn't hear what she sounded like. She knew she'd hurt me. She knew she'd keep hurting me if she stuck around. So she told me to run and didn't follow me. In order to keep me safe, she sent me away. Even though I don't blame her for what happened, I can't forget it. How the guy screamed and then how the scream stopped. Maybe he deserved it. Maybe he was planning to attack me, but maybe he'd have backed off eventually. Women can't take that chance, but that doesn't mean it's easy to think about. The bees tangle in my hair, crawl on my skin and excavate my nostrils, ears, and mouth. They decorate each finger like jewels. They've replaced my blood with pure venom, a sweet transfusion. I am poison. I drip honey in my wake. They call me a superhero. I can see why. That word makes me into something familiar, a narrative they think they understand. But the truth is, being a superhero means getting stung as often as you sting. Your barbs turn inward as often as they turn out. And that line between being visible and invisible is just as complicated as it ever was. There's no alter ego, not really. You can't ever escape who you are, who you've become. I know this isn't the story you expected. You wanted an expose of some kind, an origin story. You want to slot her into the proper category, hero or villain. It's not that simple. Nothing ever is. I haven't seen my mother since I was 12. No one has, not really. The swarm covers her like a cloak of invisibility from her hair down to the soles of her feet. I've read theories she's not even underneath there anymore. Swallowed by the hive, there's nothing but bees all the way down. I think they're wrong. She's not the same woman she used to be. She might not even be my mother anymore, but she's there. She's always been there. If you need some kind of a quote or a moral, this is what I'll say. All of the comics and the movies, all of those kids in tights and masks, it's not real. It's just a metaphor. Think about it. The pimply, skinny-armed kid who wakes up one day with beauty and strength, the prepubescent, downtrodden outcast who discovers his true power in a singular moment of rage and fear. So easy, it almost writes itself. Here's the real truth about being a superhero. It takes years. I'm almost the same age now as my mother was when she became hive mind. I've started to understand what it feels like to become invisible. I've started to think about how power shifts and changes, how the process of figuring out who you are and how you feel about who you are never really ends. It just evolves. Like I said, it takes years. Years to decide you want to be dangerous. Years more before you realize that you already are. Okay, thank you. So the second story I'm going to read also came out last year in 2021 in May. It came out in Mermaids Monthly, and it's called Till Human Voices Wake Us. I was born with a secret. When I was a girl, I hardly noticed it. Just one more mild irritation, one more bit of friction. Gran taught me how an oyster builds a pearl, turning a grain of sand into something hard and slick and heavy, as if she knew about my secret, which I imagine nestled in the darkest depths of my body, glowing and iridescent. As if she knew how the secret grew, layer by shiny layer, the longer I kept it. The way she spoke made me wonder if she was born with a secret as well. Every summer, my mother shipped me off to Gran's house on the coast of Maine. In the morning, we'd walk to the beach, and in the evening, we sat on her porch, drinking sour lemonade and knitting. "Why does Mom never come here?" I asked her once, while I struggled with my needles and yarn. My mother had grown up in this very house. She'd walked to school in sight of the coastline and gone to bed each night with salt on her skin. I took a deep breath of briny air. I couldn't imagine why she'd ever left. Gran covered my hands with her own and guided me through the motions. Needle in, yarn over, pull through. She gave up on the ocean. It was her choice. She took her hands away and watched me work the next stitch and the next. A scarf grew from my needles, the same way the secret built itself, row by row, layer by layer. Beach roses, busy with bees, lined the footpath to the water. As soon as pavement turned to sand, I took off my shoes and let the beach pumice the soles of my feet. Near the water, the sand turned colder and firmer. I tumbled into the waves, emerging with seaweed draped like a shawl over my arms. The water stung, so icy and salty, as if it were trying to work its way inside my skin. Gran told me not to go farther out than waist deep, even though I was a strong swimmer. She told me that the riptides could yank my legs out from under me when I was least expecting it. If I stood still, I could feel the tide suck the sand away from beneath my feet. Gran usually stayed out of the water, but every once in a while, during the hottest part of the summer, she'd join me, wading in only up to her knees. When she trudged back onto the sand, her legs would be red and lumpy with angry hives. "I love the ocean, but it doesn't love me," she said. The tide hissed and frothed around her ankles. I dipped my hand into the water and splashed some on my arms. where it ran in cool rivulets and nestled into the crooks of my elbows. The ocean seemed to love me just fine. I licked my lips and tasted salt, briny, and bracing. I was wearing my favorite bathing suit, the one decorated with a smiling mermaid. The water beaded on her sequined tail and it sparkled in the sunlight. Gran glanced at it with an expression I couldn't parse. Did you know that the first sailors who said they saw mermaids were actually looking at manatees? Manatees? I'd seen pictures of them in some of the books Gran gave me. Pale and large, rounded and wrinkled, with friendly, bulbous snouts. I looked down at the mermaid on my suit, with her flowing hair and long eyelashes, and frowned. That doesn't make any sense. Why not? Any mermaid who swims in this ocean is going to have a layer of blubber instead of a little bikini top. She bent down and flicked some icy water onto my sun-warmed skin, making me shriek and giggle. At Gran's house, the rhythm of our days was like the rhythm of the tide. Each night we cooked and ate dinner at her half-circle kitchen table, washed and dried the dishes, and then carried our lemonade onto the porch with our knitting. My fingers were still clumsy on the needles, and I huffed in frustration at another dropped stitch. Undo it, Gran said. She taught me how to work the stitches in reverse until I could pick up the dropped stitch and start the row again. It takes forever. When will I stop making mistakes? Never. She must have seen the incredulous look on my face because she set down her needles and picked up a blanket that was draped over the rattan love seat, spreading it over my lap so that I could see, right in the middle, a single twisted stitch. A tiny mistake, but it stood out in the otherwise smooth expanse of the blanket. Excuse me. I ran my finger over the stitch. Why didn't you fix it? By the time I realized I'd done it, I'd put in too much work to unravel it all. She folded the blanket back up. Some mistakes you just choose to live with. We knit until the sky turned from blue to lavender to shocking orange pink. When the colors faded to dark and the stars appeared, Gran set down her knitting. The sun is asleep, she said, and that means it's time for us to sleep too. She made me shower before bed, but still I woke in the morning with salt crusted beneath my fingernails and sand between my toes. When I got a little older, Gran took me for walks along the cliffs that jutted out into the ocean. I liked to scamper over the jagged rocks, waiting for the pounding surf to send up a rainbow-edged spray. That's far enough, Gran called. Don't worry, I told her. The ocean will catch me if I fall. I knew this with a certainty I hadn't yet begun to question. You'll sink straight to the bottom, Gran said. And I knew this too. Still, I was cranky when I rejoined her on the safety of the groomed path that led her back to her house. Why do you even live here if you're so scared of the ocean? Why didn't you just leave like Mom did? Gran stared out at the sea. We all make choices. I stalked off ahead of her on the path. The sound of the waves crashing against the rocks followed me, a persistent whisper. Summer by summer, I grew. My body, which had once been beanpole thin, had softened and rounded. My mother, frowning, told me I had my Gran's waist. But Gran didn't care about the size of my waist or how I looked in my bathing suit. Who are you trying to impress anyway, she said. And it was a relief not to worry about it. I let myself get plump with Gran's cooking and felt at ease, as though a truce had been called on a war I'd been fighting against myself without realizing it. Gran had stopped warning me about riptides. Instead, she stood on the beach while I swam. Now my legs were strong as flippers, and my hands stroked the water like a lover's skin. I felt the pull of the tide, and I imagined giving in. I imagine losing sight of land, of surrounding myself with blue. The ocean sang in words I'd begun to decipher, a tune taking shape, a melody building itself like a pearl, like a blanket, like the clack of knitting needles and the taste of sour lemonade, like the waist I shared with Gran and the twisted mixture of sorrow and longing on her face as she waited on the shore. I stood where I was, a pillar in the middle of a roiling tide. The ocean tried to pull me out to sea one moment, and the next it pushed me roughly away, back toward the shore. Choose, it whispered. It called out to me, to my secret. But I knew that the secret wasn't mine. It never had been. I walked back to shore, where Gran waited for me on the hot, soft sand. I know, I told her, what we are. What you are, she said. It's too late for me. I made my choice. The ocean doesn't want me anymore. But her eyes kept returning to the waves. I know what you gave up for my mom and what she gave up for me. Now I'm giving it back to you. That's my choice. The moment I spoke the words, I felt lighter, airy, and free. I felt like a seagull hanging in the sky. Gran's eyes widened. Then her feet sank deeper into the sand. When she picked up one foot, the ocean seeped into the print. Already she looked heavier, more solid. The ocean lapped at her toes, tasting her, remembering her flavor. When the tide rolled over her ankles, she bent down and cupped the icy water with her hands, splashing it over her arms and shoulders. Gran spoke herself to the ocean, and the ocean spoke itself to Gran, and she began to take shape. Her legs grew tough and lean, and her torso fattened and furred. She turned to look at me one last time before the sand fell away from her feet, before she dove into a wave and let the secret swallow her, let it carry her home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was beautiful. Oh, love a happy ending. Yeah, both of those stories were excellent and lovely. Bees all the way down. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us, it's like, okay. And then we'll move on to the next stories. That was so good. Okay. Our second reader tonight is Gwendolyn Kiste. Gwendolyn Kiste is the Bram Stoker Award-winning author of The Rust Maidens, Bone Set and Feathers, and Her Smile Will Untether the Universe, Pretty Marys All in a Row, and The Invention of Ghosts. Her short fiction and nonfiction have appeared in Nightmare Magazine, Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy, Vesterian, Tor's Nightfire, Black Static, The Dark, Daily Science Fiction, Interzone, and Lamplight, among others. Originally from Ohio, she now resides on an abandoned horse farm outside of Pittsburgh with her husband, 2 cats, and not nearly enough ghosts. Find her online at gwendolynKiste.com. All right, I'm going to mute myself. Take it away, Gwendolyn.
All right. So I am going to be reading my short story, The 8 People Who Murdered Me, excerpt from Lucy Westenra's diary. This originally appeared in Nightmare, I believe in 2019. 1. You. The teeth in the neck gambit obviously starts all of this. Don't think I'll forget that. Don't expect for one moment you're going to get off too easily. You might not be the only one to blame, but you're still mostly to blame. For how you come to me when I'm by myself, a lonely girl in a goblin market where some treasures are best left undiscovered. Tonight, my mother's hosting another soiree, all in my honor, a way to find me the perfect husband. She doesn't care what I have to say about it. Nobody cares what I say, so without a word, I slip out the back door and take an evening stroll through the city, past the downtown train station with its melancholy whistles and along cobblestone streets with vendors that keep strange hours. What do you seek, pretty girl? They ask, their lips curled up in grotesque smiles, each of them proffering me trinkets meant to solve problems I don't have. My nervous hands clasped in front of me, I turn away, and that's when I see you. There at the corner, emerging beneath a gaslight, your voice a sweet melody that could Pied Piper all the children of London to their unmarked graves. Good evening, Miss Lucy, you whisper, and your skin hums in refrain. I never ask how you know me. It should be my first question, but you don't look like a question to me. You look like an answer, an escape from the everyday, the humdrum of parlors and suitors, and a future where I'll surrender my name and freedom in exchange for a title. Mrs. Mother, nothing more. But you pretend to offer another way. In an instant, we're together, perched side by side on an iron park bench, and you share everything about yourself, where you came from, how you traveled aboard a ship named after Persephone's mother, a woman who knew loss so intimately. Your gaze speaks to me of loss, too. It feels as though you already know me, that we've met like this 1,000 times before, so I lean in and whisper my secrets in your ear, how I'm desperate for something more, something you promise me without ever speaking a word. You might be a stranger, but it seems safer to share these things with you than with my own best friend. As the moon slips across the sky, you guide me to my feet, and we sway together, dancing to music no one else can hear. Don't let me go, I say, and you smile, because you'll oblige, just not quite the way I expect. Your breath sweet as marzipan, you embrace me, one hand on my shoulder and the other on the small of my back. We're so close I can barely breathe. Then all at once, I can't breathe, or move, or even scream. When you finish with me and I return home, my head heavy and my vision blurred, the party is long over and the house has gone quiet. In my own bedroom, nothing looks familiar, not the faded floral wallpaper or the vanity arrayed with candlesticks, or the canopy bed, one that's mine and the other with Mina, curled up in the dark. Are you awake? I ask, my voice splitting in two, blood on my hands, blood that's all my own. But she's already fast asleep, and it isn't worth waking her now, even if I could form the words to tell her what you've done to me. 2. My mother. She could have warned me. She could have stitched crosses into all my corsets and brewed me vervain tea until my blood was brimming with it, and you wouldn't have wanted me. Better yet, she could have taken my hand, and I would have taken Mina's, and we could have run together, farther than the edge of town, farther than the Carpathian Mountains, to somewhere no man would be brave enough to follow. But that isn't what she did. It isn't what any of our mothers have done. This is the world they inherited, and it's the one we'll get to. Perhaps we shouldn't expect anything more. My father, with his bulging bank account and dirty fingernails, is below mention. Sometimes men can be far crueler than monsters. 3. My best friend. Mina, sweet Mina, a light of all lights. Even if my mother wouldn't have come with us, we still could have fled this city of death. That was what we always wanted. Shall we run away together today? I'd ask, back when we were just girls who didn't know enough to know we should be afraid. Tomorrow, she would whisper, and we'd laugh and dance together in the garden maze, our fingers entwined, fresh blooms of wisteria woven through our hair. For years, I believed tomorrow would come, but today has come instead. The morning when Mina can see the gray glint in my eye, this unwitting change stirring within me, all thanks to what you've done. Now she only shakes her head. We're not children anymore, Lucy, she says, and I suppose that means we can no longer dream. That night I latch the bedroom window, but that won't be enough to stop you. Though I never invite you in, you're everywhere now. Your shadow is weightless and oppressive as the August heat. Hello, my love, you whisper in the dark, your voice soft and sweet, yet still strong enough to drown out the gentle thrum of my own heartbeat. You don't ask me what I want. You can't be bothered to care about that. In your cold arms, my head lolls back, and through the open window, I listen to the mournful train whistle downtown as passengers in fine red silks and gray flourished top hats come and go, departing and returning from places I'll never know. I could take you wherever you'd like to go, you say, wetting your lips, and though I want to believe you, I already know the truth, even if it's too late now to matter. In the next bed, Mina sleeps her dreamless sleep, and as you press your mouth against my throat, I reach out for her across the gloom. But she might as well be 1,000 miles away. Mina isn't like me. She wouldn't go walking at midnight, and she would never have listened to your lies. That's why she'll survive. Proper young ladies like her always do. They learn from my example how not to die. Even as I write these words, I know this isn't really her fault. She's only done what's expected. Shed her hopes, shed her name, chose a husband. There are worse sins. There are your sins. 4. My fiance. I have to choose someone too. That's the rule. My mother holds more parties in my honor, and the men descend, vultures that they are, squeezing into every corner of the parlor, each of them on bended knee as though they're at my mercy and not the other way around. Pick me, Miss Lucy. Their voices echo through the house, following me no matter where I hide. Nobody notices that my skin has gone pale, my eyes receded, and that perhaps I'm more in need of a passable doctor than an eligible bachelor. No more, I want to say, but they wear me down and wear me thin until I close my eyes, spin in a circle, and say yes to the first one I see. He isn't the worst of them. This so-called honorable lord might even be better than most because he's so ordinary, blander than yesterday's porridge, and part of me hopes that means he won't make unreasonable demands. Maybe with him, I won't have to fear a belt or a fist or a calloused hand that will hold me down until I scream, until I learn that screaming will do no good, until I've gone as mute as the dead. Choosing him is supposed to keep me safe, yet the moment he slips the ring on my finger, it feels like a gold-shaped prison. My dreams are fading away as ethereal as the fog that brought you here. Before bed, I lock the window again, and this time you don't return. You've moved on to your next conquest. I hope that means that I'm safe now, that the worst is over, but while I'm asleep, Mina vanishes as well, departing for her own matrimonial funeral. She leaves a note on my vanity. Good luck, my Lucy, as though all the luck in England could ever rescue us from this. I sleepwalk through the next afternoon, hollowed out and aching, never hearing any of my mother's eager wedding plans or my fiance's pointless promises. Outside, the wisteria is blooming in the garden, but its scent dissolves in the air, lost to me in the same way that I've lost everything else. After midnight, I crawl out of bed and across the room, a leaden weight in my belly. Striking the last match, I light the candlesticks and read Mina's letter for the 100th time, as though I'll discover some secret code. Only nothing's there but the same 4 words, empty as before. My chest twisted and heavy, I glance up at myself in the vanity, and everything in me goes numb. I'm barely there. I'm barely anywhere. A thin scream lodges in my throat as right in front of my eyes, my reflection is abandoning me. And it isn't doing the decent thing and disappearing all at once. Instead, I sit here at the mirror, grief seeping through my heart, and I watch myself disintegrate slowly. Hour by hour, I become less of me, my features going gray and translucent. By morning, I won't exist. This body will remain, but I will not. I'll be easy to forget, too. A footnote in a story. It's not my own. When it's almost dawn and I'm almost gone, I exhale another scream, louder this time, and though you can't be bothered to hear me wherever you are, I manage to wake the rest of the house. Lucy? My mother's footsteps patter down the hall, but I don't answer her. This can't be real. This can't be how I end. My hands unsteady, I lift the pair of burning candlesticks and pitch the fire at what remains of my own reflection. It does no good. Nothing will save me now. With the candles limp on the floor, their flames sear through the rug, and I back into the corner, breathless. When my mother finally forces open my door, she cries out at the sight of me, of what I'm becoming. Then she barricades my bedroom and calls in someone to help. That's when the worst of them arrive. 5. The out-of-town doctor. I awaken in the morning to a man with a heavy leather bag and heavier words, his voice booming up and down the stairs, ricocheting like a silver bullet off the yellowed wallpaper. Anemia, he declares, in the first of his lies, and sheds his fur-collared coat on the floor. We'll fix that. I never catch his name, because he only ever speaks over me and around me, never to me. There's no reason to expect anything better. A scientist in a lab wouldn't introduce himself to the frog pickled in formaldehyde. So why should this famed doctor bother to say hello to the wan girl restrained on a canopy bed? I'm worse than a specimen in a jar. Just ask my mother. She never listened, never acted like she should, she weeps in the hallway, and my fiance embraces her. It'll be all right now, he says, and I wonder who exactly it will be all right for. Certainly not me, not when the doctor threads his stiff tubes into my veins and calls all my former suitors into the room. Leave me alone, I whisper, but the house turns cold and nobody seems to hear me. My mother wavers in the doorway, her ruddy cheeks streaked with tears as the men pin me to the mattress, one after another, right down the line, their starched shirts unbuttoned, sweat beating in the curve of their upper lips. They pump their blood into my body, filling me up with them, a transfusion they call it, though I've got another word for it. Stop, I say, but with their faces flushed and eager, they're used to ignoring what I want. 6. Myself. For what it's worth, I don't believe this one. I won't believe it, no matter how many times they tell me I should have known better. If only she'd stayed at home, says my mother. If only she'd married sooner, says my best friend. If only she'd been a better patient, says the out-of-town doctor. If only she'd said yes to me instead, say all the suitors I denied. They're wrong. They have to be. With their poisoned blood in my veins, I'd never beg these men or beg God to forgive me for what I haven't done. The last breath draining out of me, I'd never hate myself for giggling too loudly in the garden or the parlor or the streets, for tossing my head back and letting out a shriek of delight that could split the sky and decorum in two. And after I'm dead, I'd never curl up in the shadows of my tomb and weep silently to myself, make believing all the ways I could have laced my corset a little tighter, kept my shoulders a little straighter, been the kind of girl who might have made my mother proud. I'd never blame myself for what wasn't my fault just because they claim it's my burden to bear, just because the world isn't made for silly dreamers like me. But like I said, I wouldn't do any of that. So let's not even talk about it. 7, the faceless mob. They come at night when my crypt is quiet. It might only be 1 or 2 of the men, or maybe it's all of them. The doctor I don't know, the suitors I spurned, the fiance I never wanted. You might be there too. A shapeless form in the background, bleeding in with the rest, a torch in your hand and a sly grin on your face. What I do know, this should be a safe place for me. Resting in my own coffin shouldn't be so bad. I've always been a girl who wanted impossible things. Now I'm a corpse who only wants to be left alone. A fair request for the dead, but not something I'll be lucky enough to get. The first scratching at the mausoleum door and what's left of my heart quickens in my chest. It could be Mina. Come at last to pay her respects. She's the only one I'm willing to see. Her hand is strong enough to slip the slab from my coffin to free me from this place. We could still run away, I whispered to the dark, but then their gruff voices seep through the stone, and all that I know is it isn't her. One other thing I know, I haven't left this tomb. Nestled here in an ivory lace dress meant for a wedding altar, I've been quiet and calm and nothing like you. I haven't gone into the night and indulged this hunger that writhes inside my belly, the dubious gift you've given me. Yet the truth means nothing to these men. They thrive on gossip and they'll use their lies sharp as dog rose thorns against me. They'll claim I've done terrible things because you can't let a corpse rest. You have to make sure the corpse learned her lesson. We need to help Miss Lucy. They agree. All for my own good, of course, all to save me from myself. When they write about me in their journals, they'll say they looked me in the eye when they finished me. They'll say they banded together with wreaths of garlic flowers and words of comfort for the dead. They'll say they were brave men who had no other choice. These are just more of their lies. There's a reason I can't be sure which of them is here. They never dare to show their faces. Instead, packing fodder waist high around my tomb, they barricade me in and set me alight from the outside. I'm already dead, but that doesn't matter. These men know all the best ways to hurt me. As the fire rages, they linger outside and listen to me scream, my skin puddling in my coffin, my brittle bones and brittle heart reduced to ash. I never thought dying twice could be so painful. 8. No one at all. How many ways can you murder a girl? Too many to count, I suppose, but it makes no difference in the end, because in a countryside filled with monsters, there isn't time to mourn the ones like me forever. And it turns out you're an expert in forever. In the legends about you, no one ever seems to question how you can always rise again. It's easy to believe that a man of power could conjure himself from dust, but nobody expects the girls you destroy to do the same. We're meant to be lost. Death is our birthright and our destiny. Only maybe it's not mine. Maybe more than a phoenix, more than just men like you can surface from the embers. It could be that nobody murdered me after all, because maybe I'm still here. The sun rises and falls again from the sky, and something happens in the mausoleum darkness, a spark that shouldn't be, one that you and the other men could never imagine. The burnt slab shifts off my tomb, shattering on the ground, and one fragment at a time, I piece myself back together, a patchwork monster of a girl. Hair like charred straw, colorless mirror that's soft, yet stronger than infinity. The fire in my crypt scorched my flesh, but it burned away my fear too. All that's left of me now are these dreams of something else, something better. I won't be a conquest or a footnote or an afterthought, and I won't be the one who's forgotten. Fresh skin stretches taut over my splintered bones, and I part my new lips and exhale a scream meant only for you. Tucked inside your Scots pine coffin, you hear me, my voice from afar boiling in your ears like the blood you crave. For once, regret stirs in you because you finally realize you can make a mistake too. You can choose a girl who simply won't die. When you flee back to your castle in the mountains, the men think you're running from them, but I know the truth, you're really running from me. They'll run too when their time comes. Since I don't know which of them visited my crypt, it only seems fair to blame them all. For now, though, you'll have to do. At the downtown station, I climb aboard an evening train headed east. None of the other bustling passengers notice me. In this new body, I'm like a ghost, here and not here, a specter that can be seen only when I say so. The world has wanted to ignore me, and I'll use that now to my advantage. In my solitary compartment, I close my eyes and envision you, the way you run home like an admonished child, and how quickly the men catch up to you. They outnumber you by a mile, but even once you're at their mercy, they won't understand what to do. Those clumsy hands of theirs, gripping carved wood and crucifixes, fingers trembling all the while. They might turn you to cinders, but they'll also leave you there to resurrect yourself. Soon there will be another trip across the sea and another dreamy girl in a goblin market who doesn't know to be afraid. Except not this time. As the locomotive engine chugs across the mountains, carrying me to you, I'll make sure of that much. Let the girls go on dreaming. Let them wander city streets that aren't so fearsome without you waiting there in the darkness. You once knew my secrets. Now I know yours. Far away in a castle that reeks of withered bellflowers and heartache, you'll rise from the ash, and I'll be there to greet you. With my new bones and new skin and this thirst I'll never slake. We'll sway together in the ruins you've created, dancing to music only we can hear. And with a hand on your shoulder and another through your heart, I promise you that I'll never let you go. Thank you.
Oh, that was amazing. And as we said in the chat, Lucy deserved this. Thank you so much. That was so good. That was so good. Well, that is it for us tonight, folks. Next week, our readers are Juliet Kemp and Kat Schaff-Stump. Have I pronounced that correctly, Laura?
I believe so.
All right, excellent, thank you. I recommend checking out storyhour2020.com the day of the reading for any announcements or changes. Storyhour2020.com is also a good place to learn about upcoming authors. You can watch any programs you may have missed at the Story Hour page on Facebook. Jennifer and Gwendolyn, thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you to my co-hosts, Daniel Marcus and Laura Blackwell. And thank you, all of you, for joining us in spinning the fictive dream here at Story Hour. Be well, do good, and take care of yourself and each other. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.